God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated.
Buenas tardes, bienvenidos a todos. Si ocupan traducción, favor de ver a la señora Martínez al fondo para unos audífonos. Gracias. Okay, adoption of the regular agenda. Do we have a motion to adopt the regular agenda?
Second.
Okay. Are there any comments or discussion from the board? Junior high presentation.
Good evening, board members, executive cabinet, members of the community. My name is Toby Sanchez. I am the principal at E.O. Green Junior High School. At E.O. Green Junior High School, we take a holistic approach to student success. Recognizing that academic achievement is deeply intertwined with social emotional well-being and a strong sense of belonging. With roughly 945 students in our care, our response and leading the way is our administrator, Mrs. Mares, Mr. Covarrubias, and Mr. Kawe. We are responsible for serving 945 students as well as being responsible to their parents and the community to make sure that we are serving all that attend. Last 3 years, our CAS data has been steady, has been a steady measure of progress. In the 2023-24 ELA scores, as we will see as we go through the years, we've had 25% of our students back in 21-22 meet or exceed ELA. In mathematics, we had 11.95 meet those standards. Pair that with our next data point of the following spring. See the standards for ELA. 0.02 meet or exceed standards for math. Now, as ELA decreased by 0.05, we had math which increased by 0.07%. And as we look at this past spring's data of 2024 spring, we see that math increased by 2 points, 2.02% scale score, which is our level of increment of learning, which is phenomenal. We also had we also had ELA increase by 0.03. As we dive deeper into the data, we look at grade levels or cohorts. So our spring 2024, you can see a steady growth in ELA, starting out in 6th graders with a 19.59%, increasing to 24.59%, and topping out 24.86%, while increasing the rigor of instruction. As we know, these students don't have the same standards. They build upon each other. So as the scores increase, the rigor and what they're asked to do also increases. As we look at mathematics, you can see the same trend. You can see our 6th grade, as they enter 6th grade, where they scored in the spring versus where they ended up in 8th grade. That's a 3-point jump from 7th to 8th grade. Again, these are not only improved scores, but they're the same can be said for our Seventh grade cohort, you can see that they increased by 2% in ELA. And we had phenomenal growth in seventh grade mathematics as well, due in large part to our instructors and their instructional strategies that they implemented in their classes. And sixth grade, we have their baseline of 22.29 for English, and for math, 9.81. So, excuse me. So as we look at the data points, these results are from the importance of continuous improvement in our academic approach. And to address these needs, we have prioritized having call training, or the content, literacy and language that we've implemented within our junior high. The district has done a great job of implementing and so having that support here for our teachers where we can focus on language. We also have Ames Web as a screener to have data points to show growth prior to having these state test exams. We also have sixth grade, our results for reading comprehension as another strategy for our teachers to utilize within the classroom. We've also gone to an IXL app school-wide for differentiating learning in both ELA and math. We've also, with our DLI program, have explored best practices in dual language by visiting other districts to see best practices. And we also implement edu protocols or other means of utilizing our technology in our classroom, because as we know, technology is not going away. We have to foster that 21st century critical thinker and be able to build those assets as well. And our holistic approach, we also have to look at our social emotional well-being. We do have the Hive, a wellness center on campus. This academic success doesn't happen in isolation. It also happens when students are able to connect and feel good about where they're at. And so our wellness center and our counseling team have been instrumental in providing supports for our students. As you know, adolescence is a tough time for our students, for our children, and it's important that we have those supports for them. They're dealing with a multitude of different stressors, academic, familial, and learning how to be young adults. And within our wellness center, it's a small snippet of what we've done since August. Mind you, we opened this wellness center last year, roughly around March. So as of last week, we had 128 school-based mental health services. We've had over 12,000 visits from the wellness center. It's open before school, nutrition, lunch, as well as after school. We've also had a wellness parent meeting not too long ago about healthy eating. So we're building that as well to make sure that we have the supports in place for all students and families. And beyond academics, and I also have to highlight this, our counselors are amazing. We would not be able to do what we do without our counselors on campus. We have two of them present today in our audience. I would like to just give a round of applause for them, please. And I know it's difficult to see, but these are just the stats of this students, families, to make sure that they are supported on our campus. So when we say everyone's treated with dignity and respect, we mean that. And that starts with our counseling team, our administrative team, our custodial team, our nutritional services. It's the holistic approach to the entire student. We also have a military life family counselor who is not here today. But she's also instrumental, and I'm happy to announce that we were just recognized as a California Purple Star School by the state, California State of Education. So we just earned that distinction. So I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that. And beyond academics, we continue to grow our school culture. We have expectation assemblies to set clear behavioral and academic goals, community engagement events such as family nights that our counselors put on, not to mention Parent Project, the Winter Art Walk. We just recently had a school-wide spelling bee, which fostered pride and connection. We were able to have the African American Parent Council come into our campus to judge our Black History Month door and bulletin board contest. So we're very happy to say we took first and second place. So shout out to our sixth grade teachers, and I'd like to thank the African American Parent Council for having that in place as well, so our students can see the importance of learning about Black History Month. The success of our students is a shared responsibility, like I said earlier. In order to move the needle of success, we all have to be on the same page, moving in the right direction. And the next couple slides, you'll see we have back to school now, where we want parent engagement. We have our mariachi on stage performing. We just had our spelling bee, as aforementioned. We had our winter art walk. You can see Mr. Kawe there in his green Christmas sweater. And we also have community nights. On the left is Parent Project. On the right is one of our first family nights that families came in and our counselors presented. At EO Green, we're committed to ensuring that every student is academically prepared, emotionally resilient, and socially connected. We want them to be able to embrace every challenge that comes their way. I want to thank you for your time and your support in our commitment to our students, and I welcome any questions you may have.
Yeah. Does anybody have any questions for the board?
I just have one question. I know that you mentioned that the wellness is open before school and after school. What are those hours, like from 7 in the morning or?
7:30, and it's open until 3:30.
Okay, thank you.
And thank you.
Item 5.1, oral communications. Do we have any general speakers?
Yes. You can ask them if they would like to speak now, or if they would like to speak when we get to that item on the agenda. So as you call, you can ask if there's a few that are for an item on the agenda.
Okay. The first speaker is representing HECAD's parents. Please welcome Monica Luna Velasquez to the podium. We would like to know if you would like to speak now, or would you like to speak in the item of the agenda?
I can do one now and one after.
It's up to you. We'll give you the option.
In the minutes? Okay, thank you. So I'll do one here and then one. Good evening, everyone. I am Monica Luna Velasquez. I am an MLST at Haycox Elementary. And as such, part of my job is to support and engage with parents who need it. So today, I'm very honored to be here to speak on behalf of our families. This Haycox School is in an immigrant community, as you know. It is a farm-working community, a multilingual community, who remains united in that hope that their children will succeed academically, feel safe, and have equal opportunities to grow. A community who also often feels excluded, silenced, who experiences marginalization, economic disparity, prejudice, and isolation. I speak for parents who only want what's best for their children, parents who would be standing here themselves but are afraid not because they lack conviction, but because the times have made them fearful of being in public, of walking into government buildings, of speaking up in places where they feel vulnerable. And yet, despite that fear, they have spoken. They have signed a petition. They have made it clear that they want a bilingual program at Haycox School. So today, they need Their children deserve what other students in the district already have, what you already have moved forward with as representatives. As a longtime district teacher, I started researching dual languages when BARD started almost 20 years ago. And when my daughter was 5, I signed her up at BARD. So I was really excited when I came to HECOX, and our principal, we had a leadership meeting, and I wanted to be part of building one at HECOX. And so then, she bought us books. We had some speakers come over with Ms. Deanne and special speakers for us, and the parents. We had informational meetings. We were offered conferences, some PD that was inclusive of dual. And so this whole time I'm excited for that. And so the HECOX families want you to really know that after all that and their information they receive, they deeply respect teachers and the staff. Their work is tireless, and that in spite of many challenges, the teachers continue with an effort to create that best possible educational experience. That is why we want to emphasize that the goals of bilingual or dual programs are not to create division, but to enhance the education that every child deserves. The program would not end all challenges that face our families and our children, but with our work together, dedicated to it, it would support that very same values of equity and excellence that brought us all here today. You can understand why some of our families sometimes feel voiceless in the system. They've been left in their home to wonder why this transformative program has not yet become a reality for their children. Board members, you were elected because you believe in the same promise. You strive for the best education for every child. So this is an exciting moment for us to reaffirm that promise, to embrace dual programs and bilingual programs that we know research proves provides all students with the opportunity to deserve. Parents from HECOX are not asking for any privileges. They're only asking for equity, for a chance to ensure that their children, like the children in this district, thrive academically and culturally. So I want to thank everyone who joined us in this endeavor. We are united because we believe in one simple truth, that every child deserves the best education that we can give them, that no matter where they come from or what language they speak, they deserve so. So you and I, we also believe in that promise, that education opens the doors to a better future. And therefore it is our responsibility to keep our commitment to equity, to make sure that we have that responsibility. And like Rita Pearson would say, that every child deserves a champion who will fight to overcome many of the obstacles that stand in the way of equality and equal education. So thank you for leading the way for Miami School District and opening dual programs at our schools. And don't forget about us at HECOX.
Thank you so much. Our next guest is Sue Smith. We're going to ask you the same, Sue, if you would like to speak now or you would like to wait until the agenda item. It's up to you. It doesn't make any difference.
I'll just go now.
Okay. Please come to the front. Welcome.
Thank you. And I just want to ask you to bear with me. Internet was turned off in our school this afternoon, so I was not able to print, but I was going to read. So I'm going to have to read it from my phone to save time. So anyway, school board president, board members, and superintendent Dr. Walker, I just want to thank you, first of all, for all the work that you do for our district. And we, as teachers, we have appreciation for it, even though sometimes we complain about things. And I also appreciate that we have the opportunity to speak right now at this informational meeting. My comments and concerns tonight are related to the DLI feasibility report for our HECOX school. To preface my comments, I want to say that the staff at HECOX has been interested in gaining more information about beginning a DLI program of some form for our students. We met as a staff in May of 2024 in breakout groups, garnered questions, comments, things that we thought were benefits about the program. We had a great, productive meeting that ended with a formal list of benefits, concerns, questions that we had regarding implementing a DLI program. We were told by our administrators at the time that our questions would be compiled, sent back out to staff, and they would be answered so that we could move forward in future discussions. This did not happen. Fortunately, at the beginning of the school year, a few teachers took it upon themselves to compile all the questions and information that was on those posters because a teacher had thought to photograph them. So we were able to compile the list. We had a new principal, Dr. Pacheco, who was delighted to have that list, and then she picked up from there and sent it out to all the staff so that we would all be refreshed and know, and if there are any additional questions or concerns, we could address them before starting into a formal process. And she has worked diligently at trying to get those questions answered. That was cut short by the parent petition. So we've kind of stopped dead in our tracks there. And the progress stopped, and now the feasibility report has begun without teacher input, and it's now before you tonight. But to me, it feels like educators who will be directly affected implementing the program and serving the children directly are kind of left out of the decision-making process. So I wanted to preface my comments with that because that's where we have already gotten as a staff. As a result of all of this, I did my own research and tried to learn as much as I could. So my first concern is that Bard School has had a DLI program for, if I'm not mistaken, about 20 years? How many? 19 years, okay. And when I have asked for evidence at the meetings about desired outcomes and are we reaching those desired outcomes with our current programs before we institute another program like it at our school, I've basically been told that we didn't really have evidence collected for that, that we didn't have evidence of the desired outcomes. And I've been told that there really is no data. So it appears that the educational program evaluation has not really been done on programs that we have. So program evaluation would include context evaluation, data analysis, stakeholder involvement, curriculum evaluation, delivery consistency, criteria, performance standards, and program improvement goals. That really hasn't ever been done. So I think this is especially important for DLI programs to find ways to measure success because the very nature of a bilingual program requires students to be in the program for 6 to 7 years before you see measurable results. So the findings of results in grades K to 3 are really inconsistent, and there really isn't a defined way to find out if the students are progressing at that point. So you're waiting several years. So if our programs aren't achieving those results, that's a long time to have students in a program. And at Haycox, we have had programs that were introduced that weren't really the best programs for our students at our school, and then they were removed later. It seems to me that the data could be collected following our students at least into the end of middle school to see if we're reaching those desired outcomes. It's also important because statistical replication of studies in education is more difficult than some other fields because you have so many variable factors between individual students' inherent abilities, family educational input, socioeconomic influences, societal and community influences, and individual school populations. So for example, on the school populations, this I took off the CDE website. It says that, so at Haycox, is that my timer? No. So at Haycox, we have approximately 17.1% fluent English or English proficient students. That's including English only, IFEP, and RFEP students. The next comparable school that has a DLI program is Larson, but at least for 2023, their English proficiency was 41.9%. The program that's being done at Bard is a program that has 62.2% English proficient students. Not necessarily that they're all in the program, but it just raises questions that, as I research this. Also, as I researched, so you can see where these questions are coming from. On the CDE website, on the multilingual frequently asked questions page, it asks two questions. One, can you implement dual language immersion program with a school population of 96% Spanish speakers? And the answer says no. The ideal ratio of English learners to English speakers is 50-50, but it's recommended to never go below 30% for either of the language groups. Then there's another question. Can you include English learners of a language other than Spanish in a Spanish-English dual language immersion program? And it states that the students should be proficient in one of the two languages. And then we also have a rising Filipino population at our school. As I've researched, I've also come across districts who, after having programs in place for quite some time, have then later discovered that their programs weren't reaching the outcomes that they thought that would be comparable with the studies that they were patterning after. So one such district is Gabriela Mistral Elementary, and they came to a decision to halt their expansion of their programs until they corrected some of the issues so that they could have better results. The Wasatch Front in Utah that has very successful DLI programs, on the things that I was researching, they attribute that one of the reasons that they are so successful is because they have no program that has less than 30% English speakers in the program. So I'm concerned that we're trying to basically fit our precious Haycox community into a one-size-fits-all program. I feel that a great program can be created, but I'm concerned about a recommendation to move forward that already has a program stated in it and without the discussion. And actually, it would be nice to have discussions, including the parents. And I thank you, Monica, for really involving our parents. But I think they need to also understand the dynamics of the different kinds of programs and why these would be questions for teachers. Because we want to do the best for our students. I'm also concerned about beginning a costly program in the political climate of uncertain funding that we have right now, a time of declining enrollment, and recommending the feasibility without more solid data. I feel like the numbers for what it would really cost us are a little bit low. I didn't feel that there was enough in there for training, consultation. Additionally, our school is slated to begin transition to a community school at the same time that this would be going on, which is a great thing. So I'm not knocking either thing. However, doing all of that work at once, we have a new principal. We have these new programs going in, questions of funding, and also it becomes a pretty large burden on teachers. Not that they don't want to do that, but at some point you can give what you can give. So I'm glad that so many parents are here. Thank you for coming, because I feel like we as teachers, we want to have the best program that we can have for our students. It's good for our mix of students, for everything about our school, which is different than some of the other schools. And so I'm happy that they're here, and I'm sorry, I guess I shouldn't really address them. Sorry about that. But I do really appreciate, because we haven't had as much parent participation, and I'm glad that there is parental participation happening. And I think Monica has a strong role in that. So anyway, there is a list that Dr. Pacheco has of all the questions that we've put together that we have had concerns. And like I said, it might sound like I am rebutting having DLI. It's not that I want to rebut having DLI for our students. I want it to be a good program. I want it to be well thought out, well planned, and serve the particular needs of our precious children who, as Monica said, already face some challenges, and we want to make sure that we're doing the best for them. And so as we go through this, to not be rushed, I don't know what the dynamics are for the requirements for making a decision, but I also feel like I don't want to be rushed into a program that's not the best for our children. And thank you for your time. I took a lot of it. I'm sorry.
Thank you so much. Our next speaker is Leticia Perez Garcia, and I will ask the same question if you want to come and speak now.
Yes, it's already the same issue. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you. Welcome.
Good evening, Governing Board, President Costanza, members of the board, and our school district administration. I'm going to read a letter on behalf of a concerned teacher who is not present currently. If you don't mind, I'm just going to read verbatim from what she would like to be addressed. So, when considering the district's feasibility report recommendations for creating and implementing DLI program at Haycox, I think a few questions need to be asked before you make your decision. First, were all stakeholders involved when creating this feasibility report? The answer to this question is no. This feasibility report was completed without the participation or involvement of the stakeholders that would be responsible for implementing a DLI program at Haycox, which are the teachers. Second, if teachers were not involved in the creation or completion of this feasibility report, were they given enough time to review, process, and respond to the information within the report? The answer is yet again no. District level administration scheduled an optional meeting last Friday afternoon. Teachers were informed of this optional meeting on Tuesday afternoon. Provided this information, which is essential to stakeholders when implementing DLI, they were only given 1 day to review, process, and respond to the feasibility report and its recommendation. This leads to an additional question you should be asking. Why would the district level admin provide such little time for this feasibility report to be reviewed and be pushing this vote so quickly? Lastly, why do teachers have concerns about this feasibility report and DLI program at Haycox? So let's give you some context. DLI was proposed to Haycox teachers in the spring of 2023 by our former principal. The proposal of this program was met with great concern, and there was very little buy-in from teachers given all the issues that were encountered when other programs and processes were implemented at Haycox. District level admin who attended a liaison HEA grievance meeting regarding a separate matter were informed of these concerns during the discussion of this meeting. One of these district level admin even cautioned our new principal when approaching the subject of DLI, given the concerns that were brought up by the teachers last year. So given this information, you should ask yourselves, why would district level admin push through this vote knowing there were and continue to be many major concerns from teachers about implementing a DLA program at Haycox? So I hope that you take these questions into consideration, especially since the timeline of this feasibility report and recommendations are truly concerning. Thank you again for your time.
Thank you.
Could I just make a clarifying comment?
So the Ed Code provides the number of days that the report has to be done. So the district only had 60 days from the time that that we met that threshold to do the report. In addition, the report is specific to certain things. It's not an all-encompassing report. We had to look at specifics. I'm trying to find, there you are. I was like, where are you? I'm trying to make eye contact with you. Too. So it's not really an all-encompassing report. It's just meeting those requirements of Ed Code, and it did have to be completed and given to parents and staff, which we haven't given it officially to anybody yet, within 60 days.
Thank you. Our next guests are Marianne Onai, Araceli Acevedo, and others. Please come to the front, or you can wait for the item. Welcome.
Good evening, President Costanza, Dr. Walker, board members, and administrators. I'm here tonight to express my concerns about the process that was used in order to make this recommendation to move forward with DLI at Haycock School. Some of this may be a little repetitive because some of the things I've heard other speakers say. But the process began at our school a couple of years ago when we were all given a book to read, and we were told that we would study DLI together to see if it was something that we wanted to pursue. Last year, some staff members were given a second book to study, and then this year we learned that the parents had filled out forms requesting the district look into the feasibility of implementing DLI at Haycock. So last Monday evening, in our weekly bulletin that we get from our principal, she informed us that there would be an optional meeting to be held on Friday after school, and the district would provide a brief DLI feasibility update. This seems like very short notice given to staff members, and the fact that the meeting was being held on a Friday afternoon after a long weekend that we had just back to school that week, it didn't lend itself to a very high turnout of interested staff members. At that meeting, the 10 or so members that I think attended, we were told that the report would be presented to the board for a vote on Monday, tonight, which again is very short notice for us to be given information and then told it would be voted on. But then today we were told it wasn't going to be voted on, just presented. All of this seems very rushed, given the fact that we were initially told we would study together, get questions answered, and if we decided that we did want to, in fact, move forward with DLI, we would investigate all the models, decide together which model would be best for our school, and then spend time learning and getting trained on how to implement that model. We were told that it takes time to fully research and understand the model before it can be put into place. Excuse me. But now we have a report that is suggesting a particular model and a starting date for implementation, while Haycock staff members are still waiting for questions to be answered that were generated at a staff meeting last school year. It was communicated that we would have time to get these questions answered, and we would decide as a staff if we thought this program was appropriate for our school. I ask that the board take into consideration these points before making a final decision. Thank you.
Hello. I just want to say thank you for allowing our school community's parents' voice to be heard, as this is a very important topic. And I deeply identify with our school community, having been raised by migrant farm working parents. I am a product of dual language program, so this possibility is very exciting and hopeful, and I feel like it can open a lot of possibilities so that they can attend college and be successful adults. And my only concern or hope is that if moving forward with the dual language program is that Haycock receives the resources and support that it needs to make the dual language program successful. And as Cesar Chavez would say, it can be done. I do believe si se puede. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Our next speaker is Marla Pero.
Well, it's been about more than 25 years since I was a Juanita School District Board member myself. And during that time, I'm very grateful to have been able to take a great deal of knowledge on board about school safety and resilience. It started with earthquake preparedness back after the Northridge earthquake and so on. And I learned a great deal both from being on the board and a California school board member. In the last 25 years, I've taken that with me into a professional career overseas for 15 years and still doing the international work while back here for the last decade in school safety and resilience. In that context, I've learned to look at the picture from a couple of angles. One is with a child rights lens. 4 major groups of child rights: the right to safety and survival, the right to protection, the right to development, including education, and the right to participation. Those help me a great deal in understanding how to approach a complex problem like this. The second lens that I've learned to look through is called an all hazards lens. We used to think, well, earthquake, that's the mother of all disasters, we'll do earthquake stuff. And we understood, even from SEMS, that we needed to look at all hazards. But guess what? When we said all hazards, we forgot about pandemics, didn't we? For example. And now we have, I don't even know what to call this one, but some level of unexpected political chaos. We really didn't expect that one either. So the all-hazard lens, what that does for us, tells us to look at natural and climate-induced hazards, biological and health hazards, technological hazards, violence and conflict, and everyday hazards. And all kinds of things that we didn't expect. Because whatever the heck we try to prepare for, something else ends up happening. So the all hazards approach really helps us a great deal to be economical and focused. Here we are now, and for the first time in 35 years, I haven't needed to come back here. You know, you guys have been doing a terrific job. But right now, every single one of those child rights to safety and survival, to protection, to development, and to participation is threatened. This is unprecedented. We as leaders, and now we need you to do something unexpected and step up and help us figure out, us meaning I'm a member of the community. This past week I met with half a dozen women that I'd never met before saying, we don't know what we're supposed to do, but we're going to step up and start learning what it is and how to do it. We are people who are willing to snowball efforts in the local community to get support. We're extremely concerned about the welfare of our children, all of them, and we need you to guide us through this. We have asked to meet with Julia Brownlee. We were underwhelmed by her town hall meeting. We've been through 8 years of looking for checks and balances in our system that haven't worked too well. So we're pretty frustrated with that strategy, and we're looking more at social mobilizing. I'll give you a couple of examples. One of us is an attorney, and she says, in May, there's a day called, I think it's called, I forget. Anyway, it's a law day, and they will train speakers to go out to schools and talk to children about our Constitution. That sounded like a darn good idea. So if it's of interest to the district, we are willing to mobilize a speakers bureau to talk to kids about the Constitution. Happy to talk about, what that includes and doesn't include, and pretty much don't think it could have anything in it that could be contentious or offend anyone. Another idea, this is sort of random too, but we've seen that some schools have had what they call a parade of nations to help children celebrate the diversity that they come to school with, their cultural heritage, their national heritage, going to back to their grandparents and parents and grandparents. I was personally delighted to see our junior high school kids out on the street defending their rights, as I'm, thrilled that they know to do and feel moved to do. cross when we see only a Mexican flag, I don't think that's the message that's going to win friends and influence people. I think the message is to celebrate our diversity and to see all the flags that represent their heritage. We are not, maybe, I don't even know what the percentage is, it doesn't matter, you know. I mean, we could have state flags from everywhere in Mexico, be terrific, but let's really encourage the kids and celebrate diversity. This group of women is inviting members of the community and leaders to join us. We're asking Julia Brownlee for a face-to-face meeting. It'll be in Thousand Oaks. If she's not available, we'll ask for her to be available on Zoom, but face-to-face with her staff there, to raise our concern. So if anybody wants to find me, I'm at mpetal, N-P-E-T-A-L, @gmail.com. I'm already up there, so I'm already on somebody's list. But, you know, we're all going to need to be, those of us who have the privilege to be fearless and step forward, I encourage you to do so and to join us. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Mr. Jose Valdez. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, board members and district administrators. My name is Jose Valdez. I'm an MLST at Sunkist Elementary. However, I'm here in support of the GLI program at Haycox. I was there last year and the year before, and I just think it's desperately needed there. But I'm here to read a letter from a Haycox parent who wishes to remain anonymous, and this was translated from Spanish to English. I am here today because I want my son to grow up speaking Spanish, English, and Mixteco. I want him to preserve our languages, our culture, and the ability to talk to his grandparents, his cousins, and all of his family members. When I first heard that there was a possibility of a bilingual program at Haycox, I felt hopeful. I never imagined I could ask for something like that. Normally, we don't question what schools do. We trust teachers and administrators to know what is best. But now I have a question. If bilingual education is good for children, why don't we have it yet? 2 years ago, we heard that it was possible. Last year, we were waiting for it to start. Now another year has passed, and our children continue to lose the opportunity that they are entitled to have. I know some teachers don't want this. I don't know how to ask them why. I don't know how to tell them that I want this for my daughter without feeling like I'm stepping on their toes. But what I do know is that this program is important for families like mine. I don't want my daughter to lose her language. I don't want her to have a hard time talking to her own parents. I don't want her to grow up feeling disconnected from who she is. And I don't want to wait any longer. We are asking, please do not delay this program any further. Our children deserve to have what other students already have. We shouldn't have to fight for something that should already be here. Thank you.
The next speaker is Elvira Cablote.
She's asked me to step in for her. And it's in Spanish. I can translate it for you. Would you like to hear it in Spanish or the translation for myself?
We can do it in Spanish, please.
Spanish. Buenas tardes, soy la señora Elvira. Soy representante del programa Andila desde hace un año y estoy aquí representando la escuela HECAS, a los padres, los alumnos, y hoy les pido al distrito que nos ayuden, que nuestra escuela sea bilingüe, que enseñen el idioma en español, por favor. Se nos dificulta comunicarlos con nuestros hijos, porque la mayoría de nosotros no hablamos el idioma inglés. Nuestros hijos a veces viajan con a México con sus familiares y también se les dificulta comunicarse con ellos por no saber el idioma español y olvidarse el mixteco. Y les pido al distrito, a los maestros, que nos apoyen para que enseñen el español. Tenemos tiempo esperando, por eso yo y una compañera recolectamos firmas, pasando a las casas de nuestros padres y a las otras juntas de la escuela y hasta estando en la oficina de la escuela. En total de firmas se recolectaron 150 firmas de padres que piden que enseñen el idioma español. Gracias por su tiempo.
Our next item on our agenda is a guest speaker from HEA, Ms. Ramirez.
Good evening. Where are my notes? As we end this month in February, it was so quick. But a couple of things. We're going to be ending the trimester next week. And a lot of things start happening in March. We have the transfer cycle that's going to begin. In-house openings will begin. We're hearing our projections. And next week, you might be invited to a couple of celebrations of Read Across America. So if you can get to some of those schools, I know Bard is going to celebrate theirs on Wednesday the 5th. So would like to see you come out. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It's a representative from CSEA, Mr. Ayala.
Hello, everyone. Since our last chapter meeting, I presented members with our initial proposal for the 2024-25 reopener. It was approved by the members to present to the district for us to go forward with the negotiations for that. And that's it. Just our next chapter meeting is March 19th.
Thank you so much. Item 5.2, written communications.
Yes, we received one very exciting letter from our auditors, Nigro and Nigro, letting us know that it's an engagement letter and we have engaged them to do our annual district audit as well as the financial and performance audits for Measure B and Measure C.
Thank you. Item 6.1, approval of the minutes of the regular meeting on January 27, 2025. Do we have any motion to approve?
Second.
Motion by Dr. Weiss, second by Ms. San Pablo. Are there any comments or discussions from the board? I'll do that. Roll call. Ms. Bruno?
Aye.
Ms. Gomez?
Aye.
Ms. San Pablo?
Aye.
Dr. Weiss? And aye. Motion passes. Adoption of the consent agenda. Are there any requests from the board, staff, or audience to remove any item or transfer it from the consent agenda to the action agenda? Okay. Do we have a motion to adopt the consent agenda?
I move that we adopt. I'll second.
Motion by Mrs. Bruno, second by Mrs. Gomez. Roll call vote. Ms. Bruno?
Aye.
Ms. Gomez?
Aye.
Mrs. San Pablo?
Aye.
Dr. Weiss? And aye. Motion passes. Item 8.1, annual update to the LCAP and the local control funding formula budget overview for parents. Mrs. Cosgrove.
Too fast.
Good evening. I come to the governing board tonight with the required mid-year update for the local control accountability plan. Some background information on this from Senate Bill 114 that was drafted in 2023. This is a requirement that all districts present a report with an annual update, mid-year update to the LCAP and the budget overview for parents on or before February 28th at a regularly scheduled meeting of the governing board. This report must include all available mid-year outcome data related to metrics that we have outlined in the LCAP, as well as an update for the board on all mid-year expenditures. The purpose behind this mid-year update, and it hasn't always been in place, but it is vital as since it has been put in place, I think it has added an extra boost to accountability in the state of California, and especially in our own district in the areas of assessments, budget adjustments, and overall accountability. So the first thing that must be addressed at this mid-year report is the budget overview for parents. This was presented originally on June 24th, 2024, but at that time the State Budget Act was not complete. So I need to report to the board the impact of that adopted budget on our budget overview for parent, and that is what BOP stands for, Budget Overview for Parents. So as adopted in the budget overview for parents in 2020, June 24th, you'll see that the reported total LCFF funds was $99,673,172. The actual adjusted amount per the Budget Act was approximately $200,000 or so less. So as adopted for our supplemental and concentration grant, you can see about the same amount as adopted was $26,739,225. And the actual amount that we've had to adjust for our BOP, you'll see is approximately about $200,000 less at $26,598,052. So pretty closely matched. In December, I presented our CASP outcomes. I did review the goals with the board, but for the flow of this report, I will present the mid-year based on our 4 LCAP goals, with number 1 being that HESD will provide a high-quality educational program to improve academic achievement. You'll see that this year our educational partner committee included major components for this goal, focusing on equity and access in the areas of curriculum instruction and assessment, a commitment to accurate collection and analysis of data, a commitment to using only evidence-based programs and services, as well as valuing the strengths that the diverse kids in our district bring to the classroom. So in the mid-year report, there are 3 required things to address: outcomes that are unknown, outcomes in progress, and outcomes that are known. So you'll see this chart for each goal. For outcomes that are unknown, and the reasons are that they would not be known until the end of this year, and I will be back in June to report this data. So for LCAP goal number 1, the current unknown outcomes are our English learner progress indicator, our reclassification rate, and our percentage of English learners that have been classified English learners for 6 or more years. We currently, there are no metrics that are in progress. I am not going to cover the outcomes that are known because I hope you see the note there in green. I presented the CAS summative assessment data for 23-24, which was quite good, quite improved, to the board in December. Also, at that same time in December, I presented the local indicators for 23-24. However, I do need to update the board on the differences in our adopted budget and year-to-date expenditures. I'm happy to report that we are on target with our spending in the areas for professional learning. You can see that the adopted budget, we had set aside about a little under $500,000, and we are on target with still over half of that, a little under half of that left to spend. Multilingual programs, still a healthy amount in this budget, with about $1.9 million to spend in the next 4 months. For our special populations, which includes our students with disabilities, we have still a difference of 1.7, and early education as well. A little slower spending here, but we plan to make it up in the last 4 months with over $1 million left to spend in this action. Reasons for differences could be things have not occurred yet. It could be professional learning, it could be a program, it could be, as Ms. Marshall will tell you, things that have not been expended yet or been paid for. Rounding out the action titles under LCAP goal number 1 is our expanded programs. I want to point out one of probably the most popular ones this year that was felt very strongly by our LCAP partners were the use of LCAP monies to strengthen our libraries. So we continue to make sure that these funds get dispersed out to our local or site libraries, and still some work to do in this area. Obviously, the biggest amount in LCAP Goal 1 is money set aside to reduce class sizes. Over $5 million was set aside for this purpose. At this time, we still have over $3 million to expend in this area. That is obviously spent on salaries and benefits. And again, a reminder to the board that for each of the LCAP goals, we push money down to each site for their own local plan, their school plan, at the amount of over $1.2 million. And these funds, you'll see how they're expended or spent based on each school's plan. LCAP Goal 2 focuses on health and safety and the well-being of our students. Reminder that here, when we talk about the child, we're referring to the whole child, looking at not just their academics, but behavior, their social emotional needs, as well as their attendance. We're committed to meeting the needs of all students, especially students groups whose data indicates the need for the most additional support. And the idea of engaging students as active participants in their education. In the area of unknown metrics, we are currently in the middle of taking the California Healthy Kids Survey in grades 5 through 7. That is happening this week. Chronic absenteeism rate will be reported to the board at the end of the year. The end of year results of our Panorama Social Emotional Survey will be reported in June, as well as our attendance rate, which we take the percentage of students in mid-April who have attended school 97% of the time, as measured at that time. Outcomes that are in progress at this time that I can report metrics to the board are the current middle school dropout rate for the district, our current suspension rate, and our current expulsion rate. At this time, there are no known outcomes to report to the board that will also be represented in the June LCAP report. So I'm happy to report that our middle school dropout rate, our baseline was 0 in 23-24. Obviously, we want to keep that as a desired outcome for all student groups. If you look at the middle column, that those groups that we monitor are our English learners, our foster youth, homeless youth, socioeconomic disadvantage, as well as our students with disabilities. Happy to report to the board at this current time. We have a percentage of 0 for all identified groups. Our suspension rate on the second column, you can see the baseline for 23-24. This was reported to the board in June. I won't read the numbers going down, but you can see overall our baseline for all students was 2.8%, and you can see the groups that we monitor in that column. Our desired outcome for suspension rate is that 1% be the percentage of students suspended 1 or more times during the school year. A reminder that once a student is suspended, they are not counted twice in this metric. We got an update on where we are with our current suspension rate, and you can see overall, for all students, we are currently at a 1.7%. I will not read the numbers, but you can see looking down, if you compare column 2 and column 4, you can, your eyes can go, work across to see the comparisons in the student groups. And so far we are where we want to be. Again, we want to keep get that suspension rate as close to 1% as possible. So I'm sorry, we are not where we want to be, so I'll retract that statement. We want that desired outcome is always as close to 1% as possible.
Is that actually what foster youth are 12%? Or is that 2.5?
I think it's 2.5. But I will check that on you, because I'm pretty... Yes.
It is a very small group, so that is potentially a correct amount, because it's, with it being a small group, that 1 or 2 suspensions can have a big impact on that. But we'll get back to you on that for sure.
Yeah, the only thing that is kind of suspicious is how far away that 1 is. So, but I will check that. All right, for the expulsion, the metric of expulsion rate, the baseline, we had 10 out of 7,132 students expelled last year. Our desired outcome from expulsion rate is 0%, and our current expulsion rate is 0 at this time. I will be back with our end of year expulsion rate in June. Again, for the for this report, you'll see the expenditures thus far year to date for professional learning in the area of social emotional learning and behavior. You'll see the expenditures for salaries for our psychologists, as well as our counselors, our health clerks. Those are all included under 2.2 social and emotional health, as well as 2.3 behavioral health and 2.4 student health and safety. The biggest amount of the adopted budget here is under student health and safety at over $4.3 million. And you'll see at this time we have spent approximately a third of that, and we have with a difference of 3.2. I want to point out the 2.6. You might wonder why it says reported in goal 1. I really want to remind you that we put the amount that is sent out, that's allocated to the site. We only report that once in the LCAP, even though the schools use that amount of money for all 4 of the identified goals. So I don't repeat it each budget line. Sure. I'm so sorry.
What's the dollar figure of
2.4?
Is that
4,330,083. Yeah, year to date, 1 million. Right.
Yeah, I think this was a Google slide deck, and when it got converted to a PowerPoint, so Mrs. Rojas and I were just talking about that.
They don't talk.
Yeah.
Yes, I've seen some mystery spaces that I don't recognize, but I'm rolling with it. Yeah. I'm gonna roll with it. Okay. LCAP Goal 3 is all about family and community engagement. Components of this goal include safe and welcoming, not only classroom environments, but school environments that honor the diversity of HESD. Focus on school culture and climate, and opportunities for families in the community to participate in school activities. This week, we do not have the outcomes. The outcomes are not known for our California Healthy Kids Survey. That's being taken in grades 5 and 8. We are just now putting the finishing touches on our educational partner annual input survey, which will be reviewed by our educational partner group at our next meeting. Outcomes that I can give mid-year updates to are in progress, which are the number of family engagement opportunities and our effectiveness and quality measures. Currently, there are no outcomes that are known for LCAP goal number 3. Those will be reported at the end of the year for the upcoming LCAP. So, again, I think we gave a big round of applause for our counselors, and not only our counselors, but our site administrators play a big part in the success that our district has in this area of number of family engagement opportunities. Last year we set what was actually a very high baseline of 6,209. We set a goal of 6,900 for the end of this year, and currently we are at 4,718. I think what's more impressive than counting the number of family engagement opportunities is really taking a deep dive into what kind of activities we're offering our parents and how meaningful they are and how effective and the quality. So again, you'll see the different categories that we keep track. You see 23 to 24, the baseline. These include assisting parents in understanding the language of schools and learning, understanding the ed speak, assisting parents in learning how to establish structure and discipline at home, educating parents on topics that assist them and their families, engaging parents as partners in education, empowering them, working with them on how to advocate for their children, and finally, promoting community building, cultural responsiveness, and connections between school and home. So again, I'll point you out to the metrics, our baseline for 23-24, our current, our desired outcome for 24-25 is in that middle column, and you can see how we are doing in that third column in the mid-year update. Now this one I can safely say that we are doing. We are working towards closely to getting close to this goal. Here is the updated budget with difference for goal number 3. Again, the 3.4 site-based allocations are included in goal 1. A lot of times people have question on the 3.2 parent community engagement. Why is that only $20,000? And I'll remind the board that we have many other funding sources that we are very fortunate to have to fund this area, as well as parent and community outreach. So again, you'll see that we have professional learning. We're about at our top there, but still have more work to do with parent and community outreach, spending these monies, as well as parent and community engagement. Part of the objective of the mid-year LCAP is to know where we are and how much money is left and make sure that we adjust and to accelerate as needed or slow down as needed. And finally, LCAP Goal 4 is all about the local measures of, do we have sufficient instructional supplies? Do we meet the requirements of safe and clean facilities? Do we have appropriately credentialed teachers? And are we meeting the basic conditions in order to help us meet our all LCAP goals? This was reported, again, a reminder to the board in December. Oops. And this is just a reminder of what I presented to the board. At this time, all of these are known outcomes. We met on the facilities inspection tool. We had no findings. All of our schools none of our schools did not meet the good repair status. Again, and our district is known for being exemplary in instructional materials sufficiency. We only have one school where we're required to do a instructional materials walk. But because it's something that we value so much, we continue to do it district-wide to make sure all students have all instructional materials. 100% of our teachers are fully credentialed, and at this time, at the time of this report, there were no teacher vacancies. There are only 2 action titles for the adopted budget for goal number 4. And that is the money allocated for instructional resources, which is the biggest part of our budget for Goal 4. $1 million adopted in this area, and we're about halfway there, which makes me feel like I need to accelerate here. So, facilities and safety, 773. Again, we have other monies of funding sources. But this is what is funded out of the LCAP, and we have approximately $500,000 left to spend on that the rest of this year. I'll talk about some of our accomplishments. The first accomplishment that I want to talk about is our ongoing moving forward of this multi-tiered system support. This is a process that has left many districts bewildered on how to move forward. It has not been easy. We started many years back, have made many missteps along the way, and we are really each year getting better and better and better at this process. We work to have representative leadership teams at each site. Hence, you'll hear the term leadership MTSS teams. These teams meet monthly on their own and with a facilitator from Panorama Student Success 3 times a year under the leadership of Senior Director Arna Malgoza. Again, a reminder to the board that when we're talking about multi-tiered systems of support, we're talking about tiered support for the whole child. Tiered support in attendance, behavior, social-emotional learning, as well as academics. Last year, we began formalizing SMART goals. We started last year with attendance and social-emotional learning. I'm happy to report in 2224-25, we are expanding to English language arts and math. So, and more to come. You'll not only see these SMART goals in each school's site plans, but you'll see them at my end of year LCAP report as well. I wanted to show you an example of our agendas. You can see on the far right, this is very well organized by Mrs. Melgoza and her team. We start with community agreements, some district framing, always with data review, data analysis, which leads then to the formulation of a SMART goal and then action planning. Probably the most important part of the MTSS leadership process is how will the teams cascade get the communication out to staff. And that is probably the hardest thing about being a leader, is how can we connect our staff to what is happening during these leadership meetings. Another accomplishment would be our professional learning in the area of literacy and language, specifically academic. I want to, Dr. Motes, who is the author of the Language Essentials for Teachers of Reading and Spelling, or better known as LETTERS. We know that informed teachers are our best insurance against reading failure, and programs like Wonders or California Literacy, we can buy all the programs that money can afford, but programs do not teach, teachers do. So the importance of the best professional learning in literacy and language is critical for our staff. Language Essentials LETTERS is a voluntary, it is not required, it is a voluntary, but I'm happy to report that we are currently at 2 full cohorts of 44 teachers each in K-5. We have 2 cohorts of grades 6 through 8 Aspire cohorts, and this year, under the leadership of Melissa Castellano, have started a cohort in TK, Early Childhood Education. We also just finished our 2-year learning with our principals, assistant principals, and directors, and we'll look at next year on how to rope in any new administrators that we've hired since we started this process. Teachers, not administrators, but teachers are, again, it's voluntary, but they are paid for their participation in this course. It's quite, I would akin it to a college course. We like to say that it's all the things you should have learned on how to teach kids to read and spell and write, but you were not taught in college. So we're glad to be learning it now. We also continue our partnership with the California Reading and Literature Project, or CLRLP, through California Lutheran University. This year we brought in CRLP to work specifically with all 6th grade teachers on our professional learning days in their course on reading comprehension called Results for Reading Comprehension. Grades 7 through 8, we needed to come back a second year and finish training the teachers at E.O. Green that were not trained last year. And through the request of the junior high teachers, they asked that instead of moving on to something different, if the district would consider bringing in, for the teachers already trained, some booster meetings with consultants, and giving them time to take what they've learned through content area, language, and literacy, and work together and collaborate on lessons. So we're excited. That's a great thing for teachers to ask us to do. That's very impressive that our teachers recognize the value of call and the need to have time to work together to take what they've learned and create lessons. We're especially proud of our partnership with Serrata Early Academic Language, or SEAL. I did not think this was possible, and probably one of our proudest accomplishments, that by the end of this year, we will have all 9 elementary schools SEAL trained, with opportunities now for follow-up to see what are our next steps with this incredibly supportive organization, and very proud of our teachers, how this has been embraced, and very proud of our partnership with SEAL. And finally, we have been able to free up one of our MLSTs who is extremely expertise in guided language acquisition design, or GLAD. I guess if SEAL had to have a sister, it could be GLAD, or maybe if GLAD had to have a sister, it would be SEAL, I don't know. But they're related in some great, awesome synergy way that just makes sense. And we are using this very talented trainer to help us work through our, starting with Haycox and Hathaway, to work through our schools to follow up our provide teachers with GLAD training. Continuing on, we do have a lot of professional learning, and I think that's evident. Not all of it is, again, given to all teachers. Some, and I'll point it out if it's voluntary, we do encourage. The dual language immersion, this could have its own, in fact, I think we need to do this, is if we haven't had the opportunity to bring the biliteracy integrated units to the board to really highlight the incredible work done by a group of teachers last summer. Not only did they take the current integrated units and make them by 2 languages, but they elevated them. They elevated them, and to the point now where most teachers are just using the biliteracy integrated units. Because why wouldn't you, right? Why wouldn't you? So more to come on that. Very proud of that. The multilingual collaborative, as well as I feel Senior Director Marisol Guillen is doing a really great job of working with the dual language immersion teachers to really unearth Spanish foundational skills, materials, and learning. Amongst the rest of these that I've listed below are voluntary trainings. We do them quite often though, and I would say with UFly, we're getting very close to getting a very high percentage of our teachers trained in K-5 with this incredible support. It is not a curriculum that replaces Wonders, but it's definitely a tool to support phonics instruction in Wonders. Haggerty phonemic awareness was something that organically came up from teachers who started using it in the classroom on their own and asking the district to provide training, and that has, we do not have trouble filling those voluntary trainings at all. I think probably the newest thing this year, and it comes out loud and clear on each year we give our teachers a survey on what they need the most support in for professional learning. I would say number one every year is writing. Our current adopted curriculum for writing is our core in English language arts and literacy, but teachers feel that it is not enough to support the needs in the classroom. So to answer that, this year we brought professional learning in K2 using the Haggerty K2 writing support material. And from the recommendation of Oxnard Union High School, that have been asking us to implement No Red Ink as a writing support as they use it at the high school level. We have brought in No Red Ink as well as support training there as well. So this remains to be seen. We just now have had 2 cohorts go through the K2 writing. These are teachers that come on a Saturday. We compensate them for it, but again, it is a Saturday that they give up to come and learn this support material. And the No Red Ink, we've been conducting those voluntary after schools, and all have been very extremely well attended. Challenges and opportunities. Excited, I want to congratulate Haycox today. They had their first, our first ever UCLA Math Project Lab Day. So thank you for being leaders in this area, pioneers. But a reminder to the board, we are partnering with the UCLA Math Project. In this year, 24-25, they had enough capacity to serve Hathaway and Haycox. We just received word last week that they are willing to take on all of our other elementary schools next year. So they are very, in fact, I'm very serious when I say that we often have our presenters tell us that they literally fight to take the job rotations with the Wainini teachers because of just how they are during trainings and what a pleasure it is to come up here and work with our teachers. So it's nice to be fought over. We also, the reason I'm putting this as a challenge and opportunity is because of our work in trying to improve our, not only our Ames Web screening scores in this area, but our CASP math scores. We've also been able to form a partnership with UC Santa Barbara, professional learning, specifically with their summer institutes. We've been able to hire their consultants to come and start doing California Math Framework trainings. We started with our administrators in the summer, and we have worked with our junior high teachers, and will continue to expand the California Math trainings. As well as they've been providing after school and Saturday training. And next year, while UCLA Math Project will be working with our elementaries, the UCSB will be working along with our junior high professional grade 6 through 8. And finally, this is something that is still carried over from last year that we continue to work on, is fleshing out our MTSS process in the area of our behavior goals and how to, besides our office referrals, our suspensions and our expulsions, is how can we get better data on how we're doing in the classroom, on sites with behavior, and how to gather meaningful data in this area that we can act upon. That includes, we continue with our 5-step student success plans at each school, but again, during MTSS, it has been expressed how to make these more meaningful, how to bring these more alive, not only in the classrooms, but empower our teachers to have success here. And also an area that we're still working on are these HESD guidelines for behavioral support, which was created, updated last year, and we continue to add to that as we learn more. So this concludes my very lengthy report. Thank you for your patience on the mid-year. The end of the year will be twice as long. But thank you for your support. And are there any questions that I can answer at this time? Okay.
Item 8.2, Visibility Report Establishing a Spanish Dual Language Immersion Program at HECAX. Ms. Guillen.
I wanted to give some background from our governing board item. Just a reminder to the board that from our background is that schools in which parents are legal guardians of 30 pupils or more per school request a language acquisition program designed to provide language instruction shall be required to offer such a program to the extent possible. What opted this feasibility report that if the school does not provide a preferred program, that the parents may request to establish a new language acquisition program using a designated district form. And if the school receives a sufficient number of requests, which would be 30 within a school or 20 within a single grade level, the district will review the feasibility of the request and respond to the community within 60 days. So I invite Mrs. Guillen today to present this feasibility.
Thank you. Good evening, Governing Board, Dr. Walker, and District Cabinet, as well as HESD community. Buenas tardes a los padres que están aquí. Gracias por quedarse todo este rato. My name is Marisol Guillen, Senior Director of Multilingual Education and Family Engagement, and tonight I'm here to present the feasibility report on the potential of launching a Spanish-English dual language immersion program at our Haycox Elementary School. This report will explore key aspects such as benefits, required resources, challenges, and logistical considerations. This report is intended to give an overview of whether a Spanish-English dual language immersion program is a viable option for Haycox. It addresses the needs of the students, teachers, curriculum alignment, available resources, and the potential challenges in implementation. As you may know, there's an increasing demand for dual language immersion programs. These programs aim to develop bilingualism and biliteracy by teaching students in 2 languages. Research has shown that such programs are optimal in closing the achievement gap. They provide cognitive advantages, academic growth, cultural awareness, all of which are crucial in today's global society. The student population at Haycox presents a significant need for language acquisition support. With a high percentage of English learners at 70% and Spanish speakers at 84.37%, this demographic profile suggests a strong case for implementing a DLI program to support academic success, language development of Haycox students. The program will accelerate English acquisition while maintaining students' Spanish home language.
Can you ask questions as well?
Sure.
On the top of this slide, there's sorry. Okay. Oh, do I need my guys?
Yeah.
Sorry.
No problem.
There's about 10% of the students missing on the top of the slide. What language do they represent?
Let's see. So the top of the slide shows us English learners or classified kiddos, which were English learners. 7% are English only. I think the others are the other languages, such as English only. There's some Mixteco kiddos and some Tagalog.
So Mixteco children are considered English learners?
They are considered.
English learners?
They are considered. I'm trying to think.
So there's, as I read it, there's like 89% represented there.
89% represented.
So there's 11% not on the slide.
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out who they are.
Yeah.
If you don't know, it's okay.
There's a variety of ways to look at the data, and this was pulled by a data technician. This is our most current data, but you'll see. I think we'll have another slide where we show data quest data. Yeah. The major language groups are Spanish at 84%, and Mixteco at 13%, but we do have a lot of our Mixteco families that also speak Spanish. HACOG students are currently performing below state standards, particularly in English language arts, math, and the English Learner Progress Indicator. A dual language immersion program can address this gap by improving language proficiency, content knowledge, and overall supporting academic achievement in both languages. This would be a strategic step toward improving both academic outcomes and long-term success for HACOG students. Community support for DLI program at HACOG is strong, as evidenced by tonight's families here, and also as evidenced by the petition from parents of over 100 signatures, 130 plus, and the large turnout of families at informational meetings on dual language programs. As the Spanish-speaking population continues to grow in South Oxnard, it is crucial that we respond to the demand for bilingual educational opportunities. So the educational rationale is, given the student demographics and academic outcomes, a dual language immersion program is not only an educational opportunity, but a necessary one. Not only will it help learners master English while preserving their Spanish language skills and improve overall academic outcomes, but we know that well-established and well-articulated dual language programs have a strong record of closing or even surpassing the achievement gap, particularly for emergent bilinguals, English learners. Research strongly supports the implementation of dual language immersion programs, highlighting significant benefits across multiple areas. Academically, students in DLI programs show improved skills in reading, writing, and math, as the program strengthens both language proficiency and cognitive abilities. Additionally, cognitive research reveals that bilingual students in DLI programs develop better memory, enhanced problem-solving skills, stronger attention control, all of which contribute to greater academic success and lifelong learning capabilities. The proposed program would start with transitional kindergarten and TK and kinder, gradually expanding to include higher grades. A 50-50 model ensures an immersive experience, fostering biliteracy in both languages from a young age. The curriculum will be aligned with Common Core state standards in both languages, integrating high-quality, research-based instructional strategies like Project GLAD and SEAL to support language development while ensuring content mastery in both English and Spanish. And I think somebody asked the question, why a 50-50 model with a school that does not have too many English models? And really what that is it's a dual program that it's called a one-way, because the students are mainly one language. You can also call it a heritage program, language program, or a language maintenance program to maintain their Spanish while acquiring English. Staffing and professional development. We know that to implement a successful DLI program, we need qualified teachers with specific credentials and ongoing training. Professional development will focus on dual language development, culturally responsive teaching, and differentiation to meet students' diverse needs. Additionally, we will provide coaching through consultant-led and personalized training, empowering teachers to effectively support the needs of all students and strengthen the program's impact. The implementation of this dual language program will require bilingual textbooks, digital resources, flexible classroom spaces with technology support, and initial costs include approximately $55,000 for curriculum and professional development, and $30,000 for Spanish bilingual library and classroom books. Ongoing costs will include teacher salaries and $25,000 for continued professional development. While there will be initial costs for curriculum and staffing, the long-term benefits of the program will make the investment worthwhile. Funding for the dual language immersion program will come from various sources. The local control funding formula will support core curriculum and professional development, while Title I, Title II, and Title III funds will be used for supplemental materials, family engagement, and academic interventions. While we do anticipate some challenges in launching the dual language program, we are confident in our ability to address them. First, recruiting qualified bilingual teachers may pose a challenge. Also, student enrollment could potentially pose a challenge. However, based on the strong parent engagement and interest around this topic, we expect that student enrollment will be able to meet the program's needs. Another slight challenge will be transitioning TK students who have primarily experienced sheltered English immersion, SEI, into the new DLI model. This will require targeted support to ensure a smooth and effective transition for students that are enrolling in the program. To ensure the success of the dual language immersion program, annual program evaluations should be conducted, assessing both language acquisition and academic performance. Continuous improvement should be driven by data analysis and ongoing professional development to refine instructional practices and better support student outcomes. Yes.
Can I ask you a question about the slide of continuous improvement? You say it's based on data, and yet we just had a report showing we didn't have any 8-year data
going on
on student achievement. So are we going to be adding new assessments, or what's the... So I see the annual assessment and program evaluation, but if you wait till the end to evaluate something, you don't have any time to make changes. So, and I see you have based on data for continuous. What data are you considering?
So I think that we need to use Ames Web data that we currently have. I actually do have some data that I've gathered for DLI programs, and I thought together the elementaries, and I actually just recently asked our data technician for EO Green data, because it's true that it takes 5 to 7 years. That's the average. Some kiddos take 4, some will take 8 or 9. It's still very worthwhile, right? And we're not going to see those gains until 5th grade sometimes, but really mostly 6th, 7th, and 8th is when you're going to see the gains. And so when you look at the data, the DLI data, the CASP data, DLI kiddos compared to non-DLI kiddos, they're not faring very well. But when you look at reclassified kiddos, which are that bilingual brain, they outperform often. Perform the same as our English-only kiddos or outperform them. So your question is about
continuous improvement.
Continuous improvement. And so really that's a part of the single plan for student achievement that all principals do, is to analyze all of their data. And so that would encompass, dual language data, comparing it to non-DLI kiddos, and to see, where are the needed areas, right? And that's just one measure. Of course, we would take surveys and have qualitative and quantitative data. Evaluation and monitoring. Okay. Sorry, I don't know how I made it small. All righty. To ensure the success of the dual language immersion program, okay, sorry, I already covered that. You made me nervous, Dr. Weiss.
That's my job.
All right. So our conclusion is that establishing a dual language immersion program at Haycock School aligns strongly with current educational trends and the needs of the community. It will yield significant long-term academic benefits, particularly in language acquisition and overall student success. Ultimately, we did not find significant barriers to move forward with the program beginning in the fall of 26-27, starting with transitional kinder and kinder classes. The next steps for launching the dual immersion program at Haycox include sharing the findings of the feasibility report with the entire Haycox community, including all Haycox staff and families, in accordance with Regulation CCR 11311 regarding parent requests to establish a language acquisition program. Following that, we will develop and publish a clear timeline outlining the necessary actions for DLI implementation and present our recommendations to the board at that time. A team will be formed to collaboratively plan the curriculum design and professional development with an emphasis on recruitment and community engagement. Additionally, we will finalize the program's resources and budget to ensure a smooth and successful implementation. And that concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions you might still have.
We have some information to add in case you're wondering. Dr. Weiss asked the number about English learners at Haycox, and new this year, the reason why the numbers don't match up is because CDE withdrew the requirement to give the LPAC test to new students enrolling in TK. So that large population that we were giving the assessment to, we all agreed, thank goodness they've taken that off the board because it wasn't developmentally appropriate to test TK with the LPAC. So that percentage has been taken off the board as far as these calculations, which represents like 10% that was missing in the numbers.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's a large population of TKs right now. The teachers are breathing a sigh of relief because it wasn't an accurate way to give them the label of EL.
Thank you.
Huh? You're welcome. Thank you. We found it on our data.
Thank you.
Thank you. These MLSTs are phenomenal.
On one of your slides, you said that you would require teachers with a bilingual authorization, or I guess also a BCLAD. How many teachers at Haycox have one of those two classifications?
We actually have a pretty reasonable number. It's not exactly half the staff, but for I want to say almost every grade level has at least 2 BCLAD, with some having more. And so I can think of one grade level that doesn't have BCLAD, so there would need to be a shift there.
Let me add to that real quick. So when we were looking at staffing concerns, because that is a very big staffing concern, we have a very difficult time filling BCLAD positions. When we need a sub for a BCLAD class, we have a very difficult time getting long-term subs with BCLAD. So that's one reason proposing the 50-50 model, because only 50% of the teachers need to have a BCLAD. The other 50% teaching can just have a CLAD, whereas in a 90-10 model, all of the teachers teaching have to have a BCLAD.
Did you know we have a BCLAD a bilingual authorization program in the summer at CI?
Yes, we did, and we've advertised that before, and in the past, I'm not saying we're going to do that this summer, but we've actually paid for teachers to get that during the short-term summertime.
And the only other question I have, and I should know the answer to this, but I do not. What is the program we have at Haycox now called?
It's called Sheltered English Immersion, SEI. Welcome.
And have you evaluated that to see how it's working?
Well, yeah, I mean, I would say that the principals have, and I actually oversee the SIPSAs, the Single Plans for Student Achievement, and I mean, as people have spoken, we are in dire need, I think, of a shift for a program, and we know that the most optimal programs, and by the way, not just for English learners, is for all learners, are dual language immersion programs, because they do amazing things with kiddos' cognitions.
Those are all my questions, Madam President.
Anyone else?
Okay, we move to item, thank you.
So just to clarify, so this item will be brought forward to the board in March as an action item.
¿Hay alguno de los miembros que hablan español que quieran hablar o comentar algo y es venido al micrófono? Or any other members that would like to speak?
I would.
Okay, please. Would you please say your name? Yes. Thank you.
So my name is Yolanda Hernandez. I'm actually a former Haycox teacher. So I taught there for 13 years, so from 1992 to 2005, when it was a bilingual school, or we had a bilingual program. Unfortunately, we lost the program, and so always had a special place in my heart, and I really, I everybody who's related to that school to have some type of bilingualism in their school, because there is just such a great need for it. It's so obvious that in the past 20 years, the shelter and I forgot to say good evening, but I just want to ask for you to please consider the program, because it would be a huge disservice to all involved if maybe it is not a positive outcome. And I am also a product of bilingual education. I've been in the district since 1992, and I went through a maintenance program that maintained bilingual education for the Oxnard School District from, up until 6th grade. So I'm very fortunate for that. But I just want you to really consider, what all our members have presented. Thank you very much.
Good evening. So some of my concerns are, I come to several years, come to the meetings, and the dual program has always been on the table about implementing in our district. So the one thing I was kind of concerned about is that we've had it, like has been said, 19 years at Bard, falling into EO Green. And I've always asked, like Susan Smith said, we've asked for data to show that it has been effective, but yet that data has not been available to us. Now I'm curious as to why that data, if it's such a program that is working in our district, where is that data? With all the IT guys that we have and the staff that we have now, why are we seeing that data that it works? It's not that teachers don't, are against the dual program, and I think that's what some people, when we start talking, maybe like, what's the reason? Why do we need this? It's that we want to know that we're implementing a program that's going to work, that we're not just trying something else. Because we implement so many things and we change shoes, like we're changing our clothes every day, that, where do we give time for things to work? So are we jumping into getting all ourselves? I see the schools slowly, as admin, start going, okay, the board wants it, the board wants to have it, we need to start rolling it out. So it starts getting pushed really hard at the schools towards the staffing without really giving staffing a chance to wait out. And when they are, all of a sudden it gets steamrolled to move on. Why not let the schools that are doing it now see how that works out? We said 5 to 6 years before we start seeing results. We've had over 10 years to see results from Green, from Bard, but we don't have that. So how do we know this program's truly going to work? We have to look at the data that we have right now that's out there and get that. Show that it works, that it's going to be successful. If I ask Noah, if Haycox had a program, how come it went away? What happened to it? You know, why did it go wrong? Where did it go wrong? If it went wrong, or what happened? We think about, like, you talked about, what's the staffing like at Haycox? There's more than one grade, there's 2 grades. 3rd grade and 5th grade have no B-clad teacher. While they have a good number of B-clad teachers in the school, what happens to those teachers in that grade level? You know, everybody says, oh, you won't be displaced, or you're gonna be displaced, you're gonna be moved, you're gonna be shuffled. To teachers that have probably been in those grades for 10, 15 years, and now they're gonna get shuffled to somewhere else. Teachers talk about being overworked, stressed out. We're not just teachers now, we're psychologists, we're managers, we're behavioral problems, we're counselors, we're psychotherapists in the classroom, and now you're asking teachers to double their workload. They're going to go from 20 to 40 kids to work with, including the parents. Let's make sure the program is successful so we're getting everything for our money out of these programs. Okay? Before we jump, let's slow down and look before we have all our schools in a program and look back and say, is it really working? Thank you.
If I could just speak to the data piece, Vince, you make a great point. The other reason I think why we have not gathered the data, first of all, the kiddos were not kind of designated in queue before as DLI, and that has been a shift in the last couple of years. And also, the research is clear that it is about well-implemented and well-articulated programs. And really, I feel like we're just getting moving on actually providing professional development for DLI teachers. And so they are just now really, I think, getting rolling on learning all of the really foundational practices for dual language. There was not a language allocation plan in the past, and now there is. Now we did not have consistency. And so really, if we were to look at data from years past, it's really not fair. It won't be fair to the teachers because it'll look like they're not doing their jobs, but they were. They're doing phenomenal things. But they did not have a high level of support in the past. Now they do, and I think we need to give them time to really put these strategies into practice. And so now that we have an articulated plan and we have consistency across the district, now we can kind of start judging the program. But that's also been, I think, a big reason. It would not have been fair. But what we do have data on is our current SEI programs, and those are not faring well at all either, right? And so the research is just abundantly clear on which is the optimal program, whether you do it to the best of our capabilities or not. The best program is still, multilingual programs, bilingual programs. Thank you.
I want to make a comment about the research as well. So when you're looking at a good quantitative research study, you're also looking at what is your sample size. I did my dissertation on dual language at Bard School, and so my dissertation was too small to really be a full published study. But there are many large research projects that do support dual language, not just in a school that has a demographic like Bard, but programs that are doing one-way programs, such as what would be at Haycox, would be more of a one-way program. I had the opportunity to visit many of those in El Paso because they have very similar demographics. So we've had to look at the large research projects that are peer-reviewed research. We can do action research in our district, but that we will have a difficult time taking out many of the factors that would be included in a peer-reviewed research project. We have lists of multiple peer-reviewed projects related to DLI programs that we would be happy to share with the Haycox staff.
Just so you hear me. So I would just, say that, I get it. We need to see how the new data is going to look. So we have to give that time. But why do we have to jump into all our schools slowly getting into this program? That's my concern. Because if it doesn't work, then where are we at? We're looking at implementing all of this, resource and funding. And you can find data that says it supports the dual program, that it works. But when you also read that data, it says that you've got to have not just buy-in, but you got to have support. It's a great thing to say, yes, as a parent, as a teacher, or whatever, that I want this program in my school. But it can't stop there. There's got to be support across the board from administrators to teachers, the students, and the parents. They can't just stop with, it's a great idea and I want it, and then walk away. But we don't know if we have that yet. We don't know until we see the results from those schools that are implementing this program. Wait, and see. That's all I'm saying. Thank you.
Thank you. Could you please, I know that she had her hand raised first, so if you don't mind, and please say your name, and then Ms. Ramirez, you can go on. Thank you.
My name is Cherise Guerra, and I am a parent from the community who I just want to share a little bit about my language story and how I come to you. So I was a student at Sunkist Elementary School in 1970, and dual language programs were not an option back then, back in the day. And so language was eradicated from my family. I didn't grow up speaking Spanish. My grandmother was very adamant that we didn't speak Spanish because in order to be a good American, we didn't learn Spanish, we learned English. And so I had to make a decision when I had children, what I wanted for them, and dual language was really important. Because guess what? I want my kids to go to college. And what is one of the A through G requirements? Foreign language. So it didn't make sense to me that we didn't have dual language programs in all schools if we wanted all of our kids to be college and career ready. So as a personal importance to me and my family was bilingualism, not only because we needed to reconnect to our families and to our heritage, but because I wanted my kids to be college and career ready, which is an important thing. And here in California, we're so lucky that we have Global 2030, which gives us a mandate for bilingual programs. We have the English Learner Roadmap that very clearly lays out what the expectations are for schools and districts regarding dual language and giving that to our children. So I'm proud to say that I have a junior at Oxnard High School who is going to be earning the seal of biliteracy. And that is because of you. Because my kid went to E.O. Green and went through the dual language program there and went on to Oxnard High School. And so when we look at data, I understand that our data here, and Wendy only goes to 8th grade, but I really encourage you to have some data sharing agreements with the high school district to look at what are the outcomes for your students in earning the seal of biliteracy and their A through G requirements for college and career readiness, because I can almost guarantee that your kids who are going through these language programs are meeting those expectations. And so, don't, I guess what I'm saying is don't narrow your view of data just to what you have available at your fingertips, but look at your college and career readiness rates and your biliteracy rates for kids that went through your programs, because you should be really proud of those kids who are getting those recognitions. Thank you.
Hello again, Alice Ramirez. I'm a proud educator and 30 years in bilingual ed, started the program at Bard School. Some of my concerns are, just to give you some context with Haycox. I was in the district when, if you remember, in 1998, the UNS initiative passed. So that really decimated bilingual programs. That happened at Hathaway, it happened at Haycox. That community was ripped of their language in terms of bilingual ed. And so I just am a little disheartened because I don't want to see that again happen to the community or to the teachers to say, your program was slashed, but here we are going to come in and we're going to tell you, and you're not going to have input to necessarily what's going to happen. As I see the slides, I think all of you would agree that success of a new program needs adequate resources, effective planning and implementation, and stakeholder engagement. And I don't leave the stakeholders behind. Why hasn't there been more dialogue on what language allocation would happen? And the program model, the design. Why is everything already kind of there? I just really, let's make sure that we're involving key individuals and groups impacted by the program in the design, implementation, and everything. And I think for the parents too, that community needs to know it's going to be a strand within the school. So when I hear, the parents saying, I want a bilingual school, it's not going to be a bilingual school right away. Maybe that'll go school-wide. Still hasn't happened at my school at Bard. Love to maybe have a magnet school. But that is going to only be possibly 50 kids in that grade level. It's going to be a strand. So I think those are the things that the community needs to know and the teachers need to understand. Thank you.
Please come forward.
All right, so I saved this one for later because when I read it, it was a little emotional and I wanted to do it justice and I wanted to be done. So this parent was a student at Haycox in like 2007. I don't want to call them out, but so this is their letter. My name is blank, they want to remain anonymous, and I am speaking today not just as a parent at Haycox, but as someone who grew up in this very school. I have watched my own daughter go to the school, the same school I went to, and I saw her experience the same thing. No dual program, no real opportunity to hold on to both languages. When I was a student, I didn't question it. When she started school, I did not question it. I thought, this is just how school works. But then I started to be informed about dual programs. I started hearing about the research about bilingualism. I learned how powerful dual language programs are, not just for students who speak Spanish or Mixteco like us, but for all students. I read about how bilingual children perform better in school and have stronger learning skills and have more opportunities in the future. And that's when it hit me. My daughter and I should have had that program. And now I have to ask, why didn't we? And why are we still holding it back from the children now? And this is not just an issue about the school. This is about our community. Many of our families live in poverty. Many are afraid to speak out. They're just trying to survive. They're trying to work, to care for their children, to stay in this country without fear of being separated from their families. The last thing they want to do is to come to a school board meeting and make waves. But just because they don't speak doesn't mean they don't care. They want their children to grow bilingual. They want their children to keep their language and their identity. They want the same opportunities that children in other schools have. And I understand everyone has questions. Some people may be against it, but one thing I know for sure is that whenever we do what's right for children, we can do anything. We can do hard things. I live in this community. This is my home, and I want it to be the best it can be. But right now we're denying our children something that we know will help them to succeed. How can anyone justify that? It's too late for my daughter. But it should not be too late for the children sitting in the classrooms now. It should not be too late for the TK and K students who they have time to develop those languages. It should not be too late for our Spanish-speaking, for Mixteco-speaking, and English-speaking students who deserve to have the best education possible. Please, no more delays. Ya es tiempo.
Is anybody else gonna? Is anybody else? Oh, come on.
I just have a quick comment. So, Dr. Walker, I appreciate what you shared about the studies. So I just want to mention that the conversation that we did have at our school, that we tried to get answers and start rolling on things, one of the requests was to go visit schools where there were successful programs happening with the demographics of our students. But then that has just been overlooked and bypassed. And I think that there's a lot of value for teachers being able to see those kinds of situations that you're talking about.
Thank you. Could you please state your name?
My name is Ruben Velasquez. Last year, the district sent some teachers out there to El Paso. My wife was one. So there was reaching out, and what I saw Helen put up their cost group about money being set aside. There's $2 million worth for DLI. So why is that? I mean, there's money out there, so it shouldn't be money that's holding these kids back. It's up to you guys to look at that. And I coached youth football, baseball, basketball out here. I was at Parkview for why? Because nobody else wanted to do it. The kids needed it. I stepped up because my son asked me. And then every day I see kids that I coached look up to me and say, "Hi, coach." And you know their name. But they remember me from Parkview. And last time I was here, you guys gave me awards. So, you guys got to help these kids. My wife spends weekends, nights, studying what is going to help these people. All these kids need our help. And right now, with the world the way it is, with fire, I work for the Navy, and right now I'm I get a letter from Mr. Musk asking me if I want to sign resign. So, you guys can't do that to our kids. Let them make their own decisions. You guys make the decisions for them. The teacher, then he said something about 2 classes not being bike class. Well, when those 2 classes, what are those kids learning? What are those kids learning? If they only have, there's 70% of you guys that they're speaking Spanish going to that school. So what are those 40 kids, 80 kids, because there's 2 classes, or that's 4, that's 160, right? What are they doing? Well, the teacher don't speak Spanish. How are they learning? So look, it comes from your heart. Do it from your heart, not from stats. You guys have all the stats. Bard, my wife, my daughter, and my 2 sons, I sent them to Marson, where they had the first dual immersion. Went to Bard. My other daughter went to Bard. And right now, they're able to speak to their grandmother who speaks only Spanish. And they communicate every day. I never had a chance to do that with my parents. They spoke English, because why? And then when they went to Oxnard High School District, they would spot them for speaking English. Let's don't do that to our kids. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Is there anybody else who would like to speak? Okay, we're going to go and take a break, and we will come back for the next item.
Madam President, can we just say there's no action to be taken by the board on this tonight?
Yeah, there's no action taken at the board. So we will be back. We'll be back. take your seats. Thank you.
I'm back.
We're just waiting for Dr. Weiss for a minute. Go ahead. Okay. Okay, sorry, we will start.
Okay.
Item 8.3, approval of the 2025-26 District Comprehensive Safe School Plans. Ms. Guillen.
Thank you. Good evening again. Tonight, I'm also bringing for board approval 11 comprehensive school safety plans for all of the 11 schools within our district in accordance with SB 187 and California Ed Code sections 32280 through 32289. Essentially, the safety plan addresses the needs of the school and students within the individual school. There is a focus on 3 crucial components. 1, the assurance of a safe physical environment. 2, assuring each student a safe, respectful, and accepting and emotionally nurturing environment. And 3, providing each student with resiliency skills. The safety plans are prepared with committees formed at each school, which include teachers, support staff, and parents. Most of our schools have comprehensive school safety committees, which are designated by the school site council. In the case of Hollywood Beach School, which does not have a school site council, it is the safety committee that reviews and updates the plan. The plans are required to be reviewed by law enforcement and fire department agencies, and feedback from both agency representatives is then used by the site leadership to make adjustments prior to the approval by the school site council at each school. Copies of all of the site safety plans are available for public view upon request in the superintendent's office and at each school site. I'm happy to answer any questions. Otherwise, we are requesting the governing board's approval of the comprehensive school safety plans for all 11 schools.
Does the board have any questions? Do we have a motion to approve?
I'll move to approve. I'll second.
Okay, are there any comments from the audience? Are there any comments or discussion from the board? I'm going to do the roll call. Ms. Bruno?
Aye.
Ms. Gomez?
Aye.
Ms. San Pablo?
Aye.
Dr. Weiss? And I. Motion passes.
Ms. Costanza, since we've now passed our safe school plans and there's nothing left on the agendas that we would need the principals and admin here, I'd like them to give them an opportunity if they need to go home to go ahead and go home. They've all had very long days, so admin, if you need to leave.
Yes, if you want to leave, please leave. And thank you for staying and having that long day today. Have a good night. Drive safe.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, now we can talk. Come on, where are you going?
They want to go home. They deserve it.
The senior director should stay. Senior director should stay.
Okay, item 9.1, approve certification based on the second interim report for the period ended January 31st, 2025. And resolution B 24-25-09. Ms. Marshall.
Good evening, governing board members. So tonight I will present the 24-25 second interim budget report, which is the last revision to the budget before year end. And the purpose of this report is to revise the budget to the current revenue and project expenses for the year to better estimate the district's new fund balance. The actuals are reported as of January 31st, 2025. As part of this report, we complete a multi-year projection for the board to certify that the district can meet its obligations. So starting with the state budget, the governor's January proposal had no changes to the current year, but he did make some changes to the out years. Those changes are a decrease to the projected LCFF COLA, which is now projected to be 2.43%, down from the previous projection of a 2.93% COLA for next year. That decrease to that equates to about $700,000 less for 25-26, and this projection is also being quoted by the LAO to even be lower at the May revise. So we will wait for that. So in addition, the projections for the 26-27 COLAs also decline. It should be noted that we also need to face our declining enrollment and our attendance rate, because these have a really real devastating impact to our LCFF funding in the current and out years. So Governor Newsom's January state budget proposals assume that California's economy continues to grow with mixed signals for the road ahead. So the state and national economic landscape will almost certainly impact the revenue assumptions that were used to build the January budget proposal. Due to the January wildfires in Los Angeles County, those residents can defer their 2024 tax filing, which also adds to the uncertainty. There was a proposed student support and professional development discretionary block grant, which will provide $1.8 billion statewide, and if distributed equally, this would be approximately $323 per ADA. And so for Hueneme Elementary School District, that is approximately $2 million. This grant is to support professional development for teachers, teacher recruitment and retention strategies. The grant must be expended by June 30th, 2029. So for the 24-25 general fund revision highlights, I will show the highlights here, but if anyone is interested in a more extensive comparison of first interim to second interim, it is included in the board packet along with a companion sheet that outlines the major changes. So beginning with the revenue, we had an overall increase since first interim of about $2.3 million. This is mainly due to our California Community Schools Partnership Program that was almost $1.3 million. So we also had one additional one-time fund from Gold Coast Behavioral Health for our wellness centers. We had a slight increase in title funds, special ed funds, and federal impact aid.
And
yes.
Will you be mentioning any of these funds that are currently federal funds? Or, I know Title I is, but what about that community school?
Oh, the California Community School, that is a state.
It's only state?
State, yes. Okay, so for the expenditure side, the salary lines remain steady. The budget line for benefit expenses decreased as we used a one-time refund from our previous Gold Coast Trust that was closed out as of December 31st, 2024. So this refund was applied to this year's health and welfare increase in cost. Books and supplies expenses decreased approximately $123,000 due to deferring the expenditure of one-time funds to the out years. Services and capital outlay expenses decreased in the professional consulting line, and capital outlay projections remain the same. The other outgo increased due to the increased tuition costs that ECOE expenses or charges us. So this slide shows a summary of the general fund. So you see the beginning fund balance of $59,130,970. We have the revenue, we have the expenditures. We are spending almost $15 million in deficit spending, and we end a fund balance of $44,132,533. This slide shows how that ending fund balance is divided. So we have the $20,000 reserved for cash in stores. We have committed funds of $2,081,754. We have our 3% reserve for economic uncertainties. We have a lot of assigned funds. We also have restricted one-time funds assigned at $10,036,448. And the other assigned is $19,414,192. And that is for enrollment volatility, textbook adoption, instruction, repairs, facility, tech projects. Yes, this thing does not like to. Okay, so this,
Patty,
yes.
on that last one.
Oh, yeah.
What does that 44 million represent? Is it about 30% of our budget?
Sorry.
That one.
Oh, gosh. Okay, here we go.
That's on the whole project. 44 million right there. What percentage of our overall operating budget is that?
The ending fund balance?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's approximately 29%.
29. So I've been seeing a lot of statewide figures that most districts are carrying around 30%.
Yes, that's what it is. Can I go? No, I'm not going right.
That's
Sorry.
it.
This thing.
No,
Okay, here we go. So this slide has all the other funds. We have a cafeteria fund, bond building fund, capital facilities, school facilities, and then bond interest and redemption. So everybody has a projected ending fund balance to the good. There are 3 of our funds that are deficit spending at this time. The school facilities fund, we just had a meeting last week. We expect a lot of more funds in 25-26 for the TK building. So for the multi-year projection, the purpose of the multi-year projection is to use the information based on the governor's January projections to predict the stability of the budget for the future fiscal health of the district. The governing board submits certification to the county that the district can meet its obligation for this year and future years. So this slide shows some of the assumptions used, where you can see on the top row that we are projecting a decrease to our ADA for both out years. Our current year and the 2 out years are projected, though, to be funded on a 3-year prior average ADA. So that second line down, you can see we're funded higher than our actual ADA because of the 3-year average. And the unduplicated pupil percentage is projected to remain steady. The LCFF COLA funded amount takes another dip next year by about $600,000. The CalSTRS rate remains steady for the next 2 years, while the CalPERS rate does increase each year. So here's some of the criteria we use when we calculate the multi-year projection. We have an unduplicated pupil count. Like I said, it remains kind of steady for the next 2 out years. And the out, we have included the step and column cost in the out years. Property and liability insurance this year, we had a big steep increase of 37%, and we are projecting an increase in both out years, but not quite as steep. That increase was due to the liability program changing significantly over the past few years and an increase of claims. So operations and housekeeping and their increases are projected at about a 3% increase for the out years. With all the assumptions, here's the 3-year outlook. You can see that the revenue line shows the impact of spending down of one-time funds over the next few years. We have set aside funds for the instructional facility and tech projects and the one-time funds in the current year and the out years. I'd like to add that included in the SACS report, there's also a more detailed multi-year projection broken down by category, broken down by restricted, unrestricted. So if you'd like to take a look at that, it is attached to this. And so looking to the future, in 25-26, all children who turn 4 years old by September 1st of the school year may enroll in TK. We also are planning for several new one-time funds, like mentioned before, the Student Support and Professional Development Discretionary Program. We have literacy instruction investments and the California Community Schools Partnership Program. And we have to prioritize our ongoing resources. And we have a lot of challenges because we are projecting a revenue deficit. We do have declining enrollment. The reduced ADA due to higher student absence rates is a big question, especially in this climate right now. Our expiring one-time funds, and we have inflation impacting our district expenditures. So we really need to keep that in mind when projecting. Sorry, why is it? I think it got tired. Oops. Shoot. Well, anyway, it just says, thank you, So this concludes my second interim presentation. So it is recommended that the board approve a positive certification and resolution B 24-25-09 to revise the 24-25 second interim budget and projections. And so if there's any questions, take on, but if not, thank you so much. Yeah, go ahead.
I have one general question.
Okay.
Is our deficit spending at this projection looking about the same as what we projected at the beginning of the year?
Yes, kind of. I mean, because we didn't know about the California Community Schools when we were going to get that funding, so that changed it. And we're getting a lot of more funds on that Medi-Cal backcasting that we weren't projecting, So there are some significant changes to that, but then of course.
It improved though, right? It was,
Yes.
we're deficit spending the second term less than what we projected.
Yes.
Adopted, I think it was like 19, close to 19 million
Yeah.
adopted budget. Balanced like close to 14.
Yeah. So,
And then,
it's always.
same question about the next 2 years out in the projection. Should we be worried about the continued deficit spending, or are we looking?
I mean, we are really watching closely the out years and, the enrollment that continues to decline. That is a major factor. And so if our funding resources continue to shrink, like after the 2 years out, I mean, we will have to maybe look at staff adjustments. So that is a concern that we haven't had to address yet because of our nice ending fund balance at this time. But
Yeah, we've really been relying on our ending fund balance to try and get us through. I mean, if you look right now at the third year, you can see the deficit is projected to go from 14 million this year to, between 7 and 8 million in the third year. So if that trend goes, then we're on a good trajectory. But if, when we look next year, if the staffing or if the enrollment is worse than what we're projecting, then we might have to go tighter. We're trying to save at every moment. Like when you looked at Helen's report, the mid-year, right? Like we're, trying to save where we can so that hopefully maybe we can end with an ending fund balance higher than what we're anticipating, so that we'll be starting next year in a better position. So I know I've been looking at what other districts are facing this week in our county, and so we're really trying to, right size as we go along. We're trying to utilize new funding that we have for, existing expenses to try and make that last for as long as possible.
Thank you.
Any more questions? Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
second.
Motion by Dr. Ruiz, second by Ms. San Pablo. Are there any comments from the audience? Are there any comments or discussion? Okay, I will do the roll call. Ms. Bruno?
Aye.
Ms. Gomez?
Aye.
Ms. Sampo? Sorry, Dr. Ruiz? And, aye. Motion passes. Okay, item 10. I know, right? Thank you. Item 10.1, acceptance of initial bargaining proposal for 2024-25 reopener collective bargaining agreement presented by CSEA District. Mr. Castellano.
Well, good evening, everyone. Like Mr. Ayala shared earlier during public comments, about a week and a half, or actually last week, CSEA presented us with their initial proposal for the 24-25 reopener. So it's recommended that the governing board accept the initial bargaining proposal presented by CSEA and its Wainimi Chapter 273 to the Wainimi Elementary School District for the 24-25 reopener collective bargaining agreement.
Second. Motion by Dr. Ruiz, second by Mrs. Bruno. Are there any comments from the audience? Are there any comments or discussion from the board? Roll call, Ms. Bruno?
Aye.
Ms. Gomez?
Aye.
Ms. San Pablo?
Aye.
Dr. Ruiz? Ms. Constance? Aye. Motion passes. Item 10.2, public hearing regarding initial bargaining proposal for the 2024-25 reopener collective bargaining agreement presented by the district to CSEA. Mr. Castellano.
So in response to the initial proposal by CSEA, the district has before you our initial sunshine proposal for the reopener collective bargaining agreement that we would like approval to present to CSEA in its Wainimi Chapter 273.
At 8:50 is an open hearing.
You kicked out the audience.
Oh, sorry.
Take that off the record.
Okay. Sorry. And then we close hearing at 8:50. And 1 minute. Oh, we have to wait 1 minute, yes.
It's 8:51.
Okay. Close hearing at 8:51 p.m. Thank you. Item 10.3, approval of initial bargaining proposal for 2024 reopener collective bargaining agreement presented by the district to CSEA. Mr. Castellano.
So on the heels of that public hearing, it is recommended that the governing board approve the initial bargaining proposal presented by the Wainimi Elementary School District to CSEA in its Wainimi Chapter 273 for the 2024-25 reopener collective bargaining agreement.
Do we have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve. Second.
Motion by Ms. Gomez, second by Ms. San Pablo. Are there any comments from the audience? Are there any comments or discussion from the board? Okay. Roll call. Ms. Bruno?
Aye.
Ms. Gomez?
Aye.
Ms. San Pablo?
Aye.
Dr. Ruiz? And aye. Motion passes. Item 11.1, acceptance and first reading of proposed policy revisions. Dr. Walker.
We have lots of policies for you tonight for first reading. The majority of the updates are due to new laws. We also did a lot of cleanup on some of them, pulled some of the old policies that hadn't been updated since 2002, looked to see if CSBA had updates to them. Some of them we found are no longer policies and they don't have an updated policy, so we're proposing to delete some of those policies. So if you have any questions or input, please let myself or Cynthia know, and we'll bring them forward again for second reading.
I just have one question.
Go ahead, Dr. Ruiz.
Did I misread the one on bylaws for 9240? It seemed to say we should get our ethics training just through CSBA. Does it really say that, or does it say such as CSBA?
Ooh, I'll have to look at that more closely. I was assuming that it was such as CSBA.
I thought that's what it should say. I think it says.
Yeah, we'll double check that. That ethics training does need to be completed by January 1st, 2026, and then every 2 years after that.
Yeah, it listed all kinds of things like MIG and a bunch of the other stuff CSBA includes. So I just thought, maybe it should be a little more, even though I work for CSBA, and I think it'd be great if we said we do that, but it just doesn't seem. Anyway, I turned off my mic. Sorry about that.
Do we have a motion to accept?
Second.
Motion by Dr. Ruiz, second by Ms. Gomez. Are there any comments from the audience? Are there any comments or discussion from the board? Roll call, Ms. Gomez?
Aye.
Ms. San Pablo?
Aye.
Dr. Ruiz?
Aye.
Ms. Bruno?
Aye.
And aye. Motion passes. Item 12.1, trustee reports. Ms. Bruno?
Well, real short, I went to the 100th day of school at Beach, had a wonderful time. I don't know if I have her last name right, Margaret Sulfur was there because Ms. Schallenberger was at a meeting, so she took me around. I mainly went because at our January meeting, we got those bags from the kids inviting us and everything.
Right.
Look at the writing on these. I went to talk to these two students and tell them their writing is, for fifth graders, it's better than any eighth grader writing we know. And they were really happy to hear that I thought their writing was nice. Then she took me to a TK classroom. The kids were counting out hundreds of things. So some were sitting there with paper trying to make the number 100. Others were counting out like Cheerios and Cheez-Its and stuff like that. So it was count one, eat one. It was just adorable. The kids went all out. Some of them had like eyebrows taped on and little old glasses. They all were dressed up to look like they were 100 years old.
Oh.
It was really cute. I had a good time. I got an email from Ventura County Office of Education. It's time, sometime in March, for the Equity Conference. I went to it last year. It's really good.
You recommend it?
I do. It's like an evening.
I know it's middle.
Yeah.
I think it's on Tuesday, March 10th or 11th. It's at the 11th.
It's well worth your time. They'll break you up into groups, and you'll have your choice to go hear different speakers. Get a cute little bag and a bunch of stuff that says Dr. Morales, VCOE. That says his name. But it was well worth the time. So that's it.
Thank you for sharing. Ms. Gomez?
That's your report.
Thank you. Ms. Pablo?
I just attended the CSBA dinner on mental health, which was really interesting because I thought that the state kind of gave us an amount for funding regarding that, but they don't. I found out that the students' health insurance has to pay for some of it. And I just think that it was very interesting because then I started looking into it, and it was definitely a topic I wasn't aware of. So it was very good. And that's it.
Thank you. Dr. Ruiz?
I went to CSBA dinner too, I forgot. And I also read the letters that were sent. Well, I want to ask a question about that. All my letters that I received were printed. There was no cursive. Do we teach cursive?
We do, Rebecca.
We do now, but there was a period of time that we did not teach cursive, but that actually came into a new law a couple of years ago that we had to start teaching cursive again.
Well, actually, I was on the New Academic Content Standards Commission, and we added cursive to the Common Core. So it's been in the Common Core since 2011. So.
Dr. Weiss, Rebecca is in second grade and she's doing the cutest cursive ever. I'll send you some pictures for her.
Well, the interesting thing about cursive, this is not just cute. There was research that was done in the 70s that suggested that when you do an action like this, it actually develops part of the brain that's not developed when you're doing cursive. And remember that research? Anyway, so cursive is a good thing to learn for a variety of reasons, but also because if someone writes to you in cursive, you don't know how to read it.
Right. So there's a lot of kids that don't know how to read it.
It limits your options. The other thing I want to mention that on March 1st, if you want to go to conference on equity and justice. We have one at Cal State Channel Islands, and the mariachi bands from Wainimi will be performing.
Okay.
Our middle school mariachis. It's social justice and equity. And we actually, I reminded me of it here, we actually have a theme of artwork on immigration, on immigrants. Have you received something on that from our university? Well, we're asking for any art teachers in the county, if they have an exercise where kids write about immigration or immigrants, we're going to be showing that art there and probably selling it. So anyway, it should be a really fun conference. It's at the Grand Ballroom at Cal State Channel Islands on a Saturday, March 1st. Starts at like 8:30 in the morning or something like that. It's free, and you get lunch, and you get breakfast, and you get great speakers. Last year we had Dolores Huerta. I assume they were marketing on this. Anyway, so you have to register because they have to know how many breakfasts and lunches you create, but it's free. And just go on the CSUCI website, School of Education, Social Justice Conference. And I was invited to several read across America, but it's all during the workday when I have a job. So if I get out of some things, I'll try to get to it, but I doubt it very great. It's a very busy time of year for us. We're admitting master's students and doctoral students this next 2 weeks. And we have a lot of candidates. So it is good. Yeah, we got a lot of candidates. Yeah. And one more thing I want to do.
Sure.
I worked with Dr. Walker to put in a grant for school counseling residents. And the grant was funded for the capacity grant. So it's starting funding now, and we'll have some counselors from this district participating with us. Our district is part of the consortium. And then I put in a second grant, and we'll know by March 7th if that will be funded. That's about $3.2 million over the next 4 years to pay for students' tuition, books, and a $20,000 stipend to be a student. And they'll get that in the second year of the program. And hopefully we'll have them here, and they'll be working. So we'll have that. So that's a couple of things I've been real busy with.
Thank you. And I don't have anything at this time. Item 12.2, superintendent report.
Just a quick follow-up. You might remember at the last board meeting, we had a public speaker who had a concern about a situation at EO Green. So you should have received a report from me in the Friday letter. So I just wanted to make sure everyone received that report, that investigation was completed. Secondly, Mr. Sanchez shared that EO Green, we found out on Friday, was selected as a Purple Star designation school. So we're really excited about that and look forward to being able to celebrate with them. At the CSBA dinner, the VC CSBA dinner, Darlene was recognized for 32 years of service as a board member. She was the longest that got the highest award for that night. So thank you, Darlene, for all of your years of service. And I think that's all I'm going to share for the brevity of the evening.
Don't we have a special board meeting for the start?
Yes, we do have a special board meeting on Monday night. We'll be doing 2 items. The first part of the board meeting will be doing a facility study and looking at our master plan and making some decisions about how we're going to utilize the rest of our bond funds. And then the second part will be my mid-year evaluation.
Will we get something ahead of that meeting?
So at the mid-year evaluation, I do not do a formal report. I will just be presenting information to the board at the meeting.
I had to spend some time to allocate to raise it. So that's good.
Thank you. Item 12.3, suggested future items.
No.
Thank you. All right. Now we will now go into closed session at 9:02 to discuss.
I had a question about future agenda.
Okay.
I want to know specifically, when will the item on the dual language program at Hancock be back before us?
Our plan was to bring it back to the March board meeting.
Is that still the plan?
That is still the plan unless the board would prefer us to bring it to the April board meeting.
Because of future agenda, can we talk about it just a little bit? Like, why do it, what time or another?
At the future agenda.
Yeah, like when it would. My only concern is that you have enough time to actually engage the teachers there and have them feel listened to. And so rushing it to get it back to us, I know you have a deadline you have to meet otherwise, so if you can figure out a way to fit it in so that there's a time to actually listen to the teaching staff, just given what we heard tonight about, didn't come back to student council. I just think I would be one that would accept you taking a little longer if you can do it according to the law.
There's parts of it that we can and we can't. So we are under the 60-day timeline to report the feasibility study to the parents and the community. And in that report, we have to say whether or not it's feasible to implement a program and include a timeline. So what we could do is we could put, the April date as a board item, although I don't know how much extra time that will give us, given the fact that it's a spring break in there. So I don't know if that will give us a lot of extra time. I'm looking at my teacher partners over here.
Can I ask something? In a timeline of like when it's gonna be feasible to implement it, does that mean they're looking at next year, or you say like we're gonna be able to implement it at this school, be feasible, but we don't see it being able to be done within the next year, but in the 26, 27 school year? I mean, is it like?
Yeah, we have to have a plan.
You have a plan, but the plan is like, we can't start next year because we haven't given the teachers enough time, or whatever the case be.
Yeah, like we already know that we're not implementing it next year. Like we're already planning on like that was already shared, was that.
I'll be honest, I've heard that before. I'm just being honest. I've heard that before with the school.
Well, in the feasibility study that was presented tonight, it showed 26, 27 as the implementation.
That's what I'm sure.
Yeah, as the implementation date. So I do think that we are going to have, I think we're going to need a lot of time to engage with the staff in terms of like, what are they going to need in terms of professional learning? I don't know if, in terms of the board taking action, what we could do is it could be something like a yes or a no, whichever you decide, but without maybe some of the specifics that could then be part of the action plan.
I'd like to give us time to find some programs that have the data that back it up, that it works, that we could see, that we could get data from, and that we could then use the microphone. And then we could try to get some of our data to see what it says. BARD's been in business for 19 years. I would think there should be some data, even if we have to go to the high school and say, okay, can you track our kids? Can you tell us if they did any better than ones that came from Hathaway?
I'm going to stop our conversation because I feel like it's starting to get too much into a debate, and we excuse everybody saying that we weren't talking about this item anymore. So I feel like we've gone beyond.
So can we go back to the time?
Yes.
What's your recommendation of the time?
I feel like it would be better to bring it back in March with a decision, but include in that a timeline of when we would work with staff. I don't know if saving it until April is going, with spring break being in there, I'm thinking we're going to come back. So right now the meeting is March 24th. Then we would have essentially about 2 weeks, and then we would have the 2 weeks of spring break, and then we would come back for a week and then have the April board meeting. So that would give us about an extra 3 weeks.
I would just say, just remind the board that March is end of trimester 2 with, grading, report cards. We do not have conferences, but we still have a week from the time that the trimester ends to get our grades together, do our report cards, get them out to the parents, so just keeping that in mind.
And then the PD that's going on, I'm glad will be.
I mean, I think if we put it on for March or April, I think that we could still have meet the 60-day deadline, and it would just, regardless of in the letter, we have to say whether or not we think it's feasible, and propose a timeline. So
I'll take your recommendation. I just want to be sensitive to all the people that spoke to us.
okay, I mean, I can be comfortable with April.
March is fine.
No, we'll yeah. All right.
Yeah, we just give input.
Right.
She makes the decision.
Okay.
Along with you. And then it goes on the agenda.
All right. So, can we go to closed session now? Thank you.
Aye.
Not that easy.